Welcome to Undercurrents of Romance, the show that celebrates every subgenre of romantic fiction. In each episode, I peel back the layers of your favorite love stories and chat with the talented authors who bring them to life. I'm your host, Tracey Devlyn. Now, let's dive in with today's guest. Hello, romantics. I'm here with HelenKay Dimon to talk about her new romantic mystery, The Usual Family Mayhem. Welcome to the show, HelenKay.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure, really. I understand from your bio that you might be our future Secretary of State.
That was, people say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they say whatever. And apparently I always was like Secretary of State. My parents were like, where does that come from? But okay.
I know I was impressed. I'm like, boy, I don't even know if I knew what a Secretary of State was well, probably not even into my 20s, to be perfectly honest. At the time, politics, you just didn't pay attention to politics as
Right.
much in back in my day as we do today. But you spent some time in DC and everything, it sounds like.
I did. I grew up in like Amish country, Pennsylvania. So, farm country. And I had always wanted to live in Washington, D.C. I don't know why. Um, and that was my first job after college. I
Wow.
worked for a congressman. I was a legislative correspondent, making basically a cheese sandwich as my as my salary. And living in DC, which was like this huge, you go from farm country to Washington, D.C., living right off like the
Metropolis,
mall,
yeah.
right near
Yeah.
the Air and Space Museum. And yeah, and I fell in love with the city and the vibe of the city. Politics is a little it was it's exciting when you're 21. It's exciting
Hmm.
when you're 21. As you get older, you're like, that's not that exciting. That's just tough. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And you were a lawyer while you were there too, if I recall correctly.
I left the job to go back to law school in North Carolina, and then I moved back to the DC area after that, and I practiced law in the DC area for about 12 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Divorce attorney. How
Talk
romantic
about
is that?
Oh, I imagine there might be more than their fair share in that fair city, would be my guess,
Yes.
but that's a
Yes.
total guess.
Yes. Lots of lawyers, lots of divorce people.
Yep,
Yes.
yep, yep. I can imagine. Well, now that we know a little bit more about your political aspirations, what else would you like to tell us about yourself? What else
I
would you like to know?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm now coming to you from San Diego. I'm transplanted here. I've lived here for about 15 years. Very different from Washington, D.C. And retired from the practice of law to write full time. And I write romance and a lot of different romantic subgenres as Helen
Yeah,
Kay, and then I write thrillers under the name of Darby Kane. So
yeah.
I people kiss here and they kill each other over here. Those are my two
Get the
personalities.
extremes, right?
Yes. And it's not that weird to me. So I don't know what that
I
means.
know. I'm with you. I'm with you. I know. Well, as I mentioned, we are here to celebrate your new release of The Usual Family Mayhem. Do you mind just giving us a quick overview of the story and then tell us maybe what sparked the idea? Because it's a little different than some of the other books that you've written.
I know I for as Helen K for years I wrote romantic suspense, and it's like, people with guns and they're overseas and they're special operatives and stuff, and this is about, like poison pies, which is slightly different. um I wanted to write something kind of lighter in tone, but still had kind of uh, uh, difficult subjects to deal with, like family trauma and those kind of things, but handled in a way that I thought people might enjoy reading about them. And this is a story, it's about Kasey, who fails out of law school. I swear I graduate. And she has now been through a series of jobs she's not good at. And she can't really find her way. And she has landed on this job it's like this incubator where they find new businesses, and she hasn't had an idea. She knows she's going to be fired from this job, but her grandmother who raised her, and her beloved like aunt, like southern aunt, not really related,
Right.
um, make pies. They have this incredible business, like local business. I thought of it as, what's the cookie lady? Wait, there's a woman who started like making cookies and then it went everywhere and it was in all, like all kinds of everywhere you went. And I wanted that. And I wanted her to go home thinking maybe I can take this small business and I can blow it up. Although my grandmother will hate it, and really all I'm trying to do is save my job here by throwing out an idea. But the problem is she puts all of this spotlight on the family business, and then she starts to think that maybe grandma and Aunt Celia on the side are making poison pies to kill bad men. And now she has a problem, as you do.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Poison pies and spotlight do not mix together well. No, not at all. No, it's such a great premise, and it was funny because obviously you come from a romance background. I was sitting here, I'm like, so did Kasey and Jackson come before the poison pie idea, or did the poison pie idea come before the romantic element in the story?
The poison pie actually came for I had one I went to law school in North Carolina. This book is set in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where I went to law school, and it's a little bit of an ode to that area. It's the only time in my life I lived there, and it was just it's absolutely beautiful and
Mhm.
looks like how you would think with the magnolia trees and everything. And I wanted to set something there that appreciated kind of the culture of the area and the family bonds and those things. But I have to, kill people, so I needed pies. And I know nothing about pies. Like people have said, what about recipes? I'm like, you don't want me putting a recipe for anything in anything ever. But I had a lot of fun looking up like best pies in North Carolina, and
Yeah,
those kind
yeah.
of things. Um, but I really had the idea of kind of this family, this like women's resilience kind of thing, right? Like a
Mhm.
lot of bad things have happened that are not on the page. And this is the after. Like, how do you put the lives back together? How do you put the family back together? Those kind of things. And I wanted to do that. And Jackson kind of just walked on the page. And I had thought, oh, this will be a little more general fiction than romantic
Mhm.
caper. And then, I wrote to my editor and I'm like, so if it's more romantic caper than general fiction, she's like, go for it. That's fine. Because once he walked on the page, I realized he was the piece that was kind of missing. Um,
Mhm.
and I love anything where there's like a couple and there's like neither one's really the sidekick. They're trying to solve something, and Jackson is completely reluctant in helping with to figure out if poison pies are being made because he does not want to know. And so that was
Yeah.
that was that
Ignorance
was a
is
lot of fun.
bliss, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I thought that well, first of all, I really loved the dynamic that you gave to Casey, Celia, and Mags, that family unit. It was just so sweet and heartwarming. And Casey is such a great character. She has this fun, just I guess like a highly self-aware voice where she knows exactly every one of her limitations, and she's not afraid to say, "Oh yeah, they have a fair point. Yeah, I can't really do that, kind of thing." And but where it really came into play, where I got the most enjoyment out of it was whenever she and Jackson would have this kind of banter back and forth,
Yes.
because if it felt like, and I never did, even when I got to the end of the story, I never did figure out if she was doing it on purpose to him or if that's just the way her mind worked, because it was like she had this great way of misreading everything. So like the way you would think about one thing, she would think about it in a totally different direction, and he would be like, what are we talking about?
I know. I know. I I love the opposites attract, right?
Yeah.
Trope. I love it. And he's an attorney and he has done everything he's supposed to do. He's gone straight through, he's gone to the great schools, he's gotten the perfect grades, he's made, he's he's that the guy that you're like everything right. And he's a nice guy and he's decent, all of those things. And she is a little like, well, like
Yeah.
she can't figure out how to make anything work, but she has had a forever crush on him, which she doesn't really like because she thinks they're so different that it doesn't make any sense at all. But like she can't help. She can't help it. Like like
Yeah.
the attraction's there. But the whole idea of kind of the, there are a lot of older movies like Philadelphia Story and where there's that banter and bickering between two opposites where you realize they're opposites in how they handle stuff, but like their belief systems and
Right.
who they are is actually rock solid. Like
Mhm.
they both want and believe the same things. They just go about it in very different ways.
Vastly different. And that was the really neat thing about Jackson was that he understood her, like at an elemental level. He understood her and was still drawn to her and still, well, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it's just it was great that that opposites attract that he was all in still. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That
yeah,
was all cool with him.
yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was great.
Great.
Well, one of the things that I like to dive into on this show is finding the story's undercurrent with the author. And it's that second beating heart that just flows beneath the lover's story,
Yeah.
their journey. And I was wondering if you have any thoughts about what that undercurrent is that flows beneath Kasey and Jackson's story.
I think they have both dealt with trauma and loss. His mother died. Her parental situation is awful. Like her
Mm,
father,
yeah.
her mother, you find that out fairly quickly. And a long time ago, like she was 6. But they both come from this kind of place of broken pieces, right? And for Kasey, her grandmother and her Aunt Celia help put it all back together, like help
Mhm.
her as much as they can to put it together. For Jackson, he kind of just plows ahead and does what he's supposed to do and what his dad's expectations are and those kind of things. So I think the undercurrent, and not just for those two, it's also for Mags and Celia. I mean, this book
Mm,
really is about um, how amazing women are at dealing with these huge blows,
mhm.
um, and very difficult situations. In Mag's case, a very difficult marital
Yep.
situation. In Celia's case, a not great marital situation, and how they keep moving forward. And
Mhm.
and how do you know that in some ways it's defined you, but you don't want it to define like who you are and how you
Yeah.
treat people. And that kind of ability, I think we all have that we sometimes don't even realize we have to just figure it out. Like like
Mm.
everything feels like it's falling apart. Everything feels bad. You're not sure like how you're going to move forward. And women find a way to move forward, right? Like
Mhm.
they do
Mhm.
because the option to just slump on the ground and do nothing is rarely there. If you have kids or you have grandkids and you have people who depend on you and the bills have to be paid and the mortgage doesn't just magically, that is my cat making that noise, by the way.
I can't hear it. That's fine.
um, so I really wanted to deal with that. I mean, there's a reason these women are making poison pies. They do not want women to deal with what they had to deal with. And if they can't take care of it, Mags and Celia will figure out a way to take care of it, right? Like, and
Mhm.
I kind of loved the idea of that women bond of helping each other and kind of how to work through trauma and how to walk in life with it, but to do it in a way that was still respectful, but not heavy and dreary. Like, how do
Right.
you do it and show that you can still have this happy, fulfilling life. It's just a different life than what you thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like all those,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I thought that the poison pie it gave them it really empowered them again, gave them their
yeah,
power back.
yeah,
Because as you know, as anybody who's you know been involved with it, there's a helplessness there
yeah.
that occurs, and so and I thought I know people might be listening like poison pies. That's not heavy. Helen Kay did it in a way that it feels very cozy. It has a very cozy feel to it. It is a heavier issue, but you did it in I thought in a playful, fun
Oh,
way.
good.
I thought that the book was a fun, playful, romantic caper. I like that
Yeah,
term, caper. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, good. That's what I wanted because really at heart, what Mags and Celia are saying is nobody helped us.
Yeah.
We are not going to allow that to go on for another generation. We are going to step up in the middle of making normal cupcakes, pies, whatever, and have building this incredible business. There is this side business that
Yeah.
they do because they need to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. So you have already mentioned opposites
yeah,
attract as being one of the tropes for this
definitely.
story. Can you think of any others that come to mind that readers can look forward to?
I mean, I think longtime crush, definitely.
Mm.
And it's not just Kasey who has a long time hidden crush.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Uh-huh.
um, I don't know that it's enemies to lovers in the way we think of it. It's more like bickering to lovers,
Yeah,
like it's
yeah,
more
yeah, yeah.
like they've kind of like,
Frenemies,
yes,
frenemies.
exactly. Exactly. Um, and definitely romantic caper. And I think there's a bit of soulmates, and when I say that, I mean Mags and Celia, right? Like,
Mhm,
not
mhm.
just Kasey and Jackson. I mean, I want people to feel like these 2 need to get their act together because that's what Mags and Celia are like. These
Yeah.
young just cannot figure this out. I don't know why. But there is also a love and respect that Mags and Celia have for each other that was born out of a survival mode,
Mhm, mhm.
um, which I love, and a lot we don't talk a lot about older women and, um, you know, a lot of times you see they're alone and they're
Yeah.
thriving, and they're
Oh
thriving
gosh,
because they have
yeah.
each other.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What romance book have you read recently that you would recommend and why?
Now I have to say, normally, I like, and you'll appreciate this, my romance with a side of murder because I love
Yes.
romantic suspense. And anything having to do with romantic suspense. I love and the name, oh my gosh, just went out of my head. Allie Carter
Ah,
is writing, for years she wrote young adult, and she is writing, she had a story at Christmas. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Um, but
yeah,
look up
her
Allie Carter,Ally Carter, and it is they are like romantic capers, but super romantic and
okay.
super they and fun and funny and I love that. I love it. I love Emily Henry. I love anything that has that feeling, that where I feel like a little bit of suspense and a little bit of danger,
Mhm.
but I never actually think anything horrible is gonna happen to these
Sure.
people, and
Yeah.
somehow they figure out how to fall in love in this, like, kind of insane situation. I love that, right? Because we're practical people, we'd be like, "No, nope, no time for love right there," but I love that when we write romantic suspense, whether it's lighter or heavier,
Mhm.
with guns, shooting people, that this idea that out of this danger, this incredible feeling can grow up, like, in the middle of that, I love that about romantic
Yeah,
suspense.
I'm right there with you for
Yeah.
sure. Before we go, can you give us a hint of what's coming up next? Any exciting projects you can talk to us about?
My next book, is actually a Darby Kane thriller, and it's, like a whole family goes missing. Romantic, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah.
so my next one is a Darby Kane thriller, and right now I'm working on a new Helen Kay idea, and I kind of want, um, like a messy family think Succession,
Okay.
and then I'm like, "But how can I make any of these people lovable enough to let them fall in love?" And that is I'm spending some time
Yeah,
working on that right now, yeah.
that's the challenge, yeah.
That is the challenge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, when this episode airs, the usual Family Mayhem will be out, so be sure to order your copy today. Uh, your website is HelenKayDimon.com,
Yeah,
correct? Yeah.
correct.
What socials are you most active on?
I'm most active on Instagram, I love pictures.
Okay. All right.
I'm most active there, and I post a lot having to do with books and with writing, and other people's books, like books I've read that I'm suggesting people, read, so yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Helen Kay, thank you so much for joining me. This was so much fun. I really love this book and appreciate you spending some time chatting with me about it.
Thank you so much.
Many thanks to everyone listening. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Undercurrents of Romance. You can find more information about the show at tracydevlyn.com/podcast. Undercurrents of Romance is a proud member of the Authors on the Air Global Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I'll be back soon with another great romantic read. In the meantime, enjoy the adventure, everyone. Bye, Helen Kay.
Bye.